Oh,
In this
mm.
scenario, the human user is the line manager, and this avatar is the marketing executive. We are talking about well-being check-in. This is an AI avatar, so occasional odd phrasing or interruptions may happen. Sorry in advance. Starting now. Morning. Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place today. I'm fine, just busy.
Gosh, it sounds like you are. And first and foremost, then, with being busy, thank you for taking the time out to come and do our regular check-in and just catch up and see how things are. So, how things going? You say you're busy. Tell me more.
It's been relentless lately, right? The decks, the extra campaign bits, stuff keeps landing, and I keep thinking I'll get ahead. Doesn't really happen.
I absolutely appreciate that and the work that we do. And when it does come to these campaigns and we get to those sharp end of the campaigns where the pressure and the starts to build to get that campaign complete. So when you say that it's been relentless, etc. So tell me a little bit more about how that's been impacting you directly.
Honestly, it's just been a lot. Like, not just the deadlines themselves, but keeping on top of all the bits that get added last minute. So, approvals, chasing assets from people who are also swamped, then socials needing tweaks, and then the team's all stretched too, so it's not just me. I'm not saying I can't handle it. It's just, do you know if we're getting any extra support soon?
Okay, listen, first and foremost, thank you for trusting me to share that information with me. And I absolutely appreciate of what you've been saying and appreciate that across the business and other departments as well, that they feel like that they're under their elements of pressure and targets to achieve as well with regards to it. With regards to your question about is there any help coming? So um, what would help you at this moment in time? So, whilst I can appreciate, is there any help coming? But what does help look like for you?
I mean, I get that everyone's under it, so I'm not expecting some magic fix. It's more, look, I just need some breathing space to actually get the work done properly, not keep firefighting. That's all I'm after.
Just notice something you did there, which you're probably conscious about, is that when Emma had asked you for help,
Hmm.
we spoke at the start about like not wanting to fix, and you asked the question, "What help would you need?" That
Yeah.
was intentional.
Yeah, because I want to. So when somebody says they want help, then for me, I could go, "Oh my gosh, right? Well, she needs. There's this happening and this happening, this happening. I'll do A, B, and C, and she can do one, two, three. Does that make sense? I've gone
Yeah,
into the mode. So what I wanted to do there was to bring out in the conversation what does help look like for her. So does that mean that she needs some what they call deep work time, if that makes sense? So I'm trying to just figure out what help means there.
and that is like what you did there is like not easy to do, man. Like it's like one of those things. Like once you've done this work for a while, it maybe what you did came across as kind of effortless in a
Mm.
way, with what I observed.
Yeah.
But I know, having been in that situation, it's really hard. Like when someone asks you for help,
Yeah.
it's really hard not to say, well, let me see who can pick up the other work, or let me see if I'll change your priorities or something.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when you're busy and stuff, man. It's like really hard not to go into that kind of fixing mode. And I think there's also that, like, maybe some managers feel like that's their job,
Yeah.
maybe in a way, right? Um,
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's to, and it's not necessarily that. It's support rather than fix. I'm always
yeah,
a supporter. Support. Now, you might encourage somebody as to sort of consider two or three options that would fix their situation. Now, that's very different because what you're doing is empowering that person to make the decision as to what their fix needs to be. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Hi. Okay, so excuse me. Um, so when you say that this breathing space that you need, is that something that? Well, actually, no, 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 no. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack with what I'm saying here, Emma, if I may. Um, Tell me a typical day, if you just don't mind. Tell me what a typical day looks like for you at this moment in time.
Honestly, I'm not sure typical means much now. Some days I'm straight into fixing last night's feedback, then it's straight onto calls, barely time to eat, then chasing people for what's missing, then someone else's urgent job drops in. I don't remember it being this stacked before, not under the last manager.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for being honest with me and letting me know. And this is something that I certainly want to be able to support you with and make it sort of easier for you to get on and do your job. So when you talk about the different elements of it, if we took the number one priority now with it, would we be right in assuming that the thing that you need is time? Would that help?
Yeah, time would help, but it's not just that. I'm running on fumes, if I'm honest. Haven't really slept properly in weeks. What's actually realistic to shift, though?
Okay, right. So now you've sort of, excuse me, told me a little bit about perhaps what might be happening outside of work as well as what's going inside of work. If you feel you can trust to tell me, how's home life at the moment? What's sort of like going on at home as well as what's going on at work? So you've given me some detail about what's happening in work. How are we getting on at home at the moment? What's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. New baby's not sleeping, and I'm juggling hospital stuff for my mum on top. I don't really want to make excuses, but it's just constant right now.
Amazing. Why did you choose to ask the question around what's going on at home? Was there something in the conversation that gave you a nudge or an indication to go down that angle? Because so far we spent the first part of the conversation kind of very task orientated, and then
Yeah,
you made a pivot there at that point.
I
What
did.
what led you to doing that?
It was sleep. So when she said that there, so it's about the active listening and picking up on stuff. So she mentioned about that she'd not getting much sleep recently. So sometimes with this, so I'd possibly be aware that she'd already had a baby, maybe as a manager.
Yeah,
So I might know that information, but I'm not necessarily going to bring that in. So as I've said, she's talking about work. Work could be the straw that's breaking the camel's back. Does that make sense? So now
yeah,
I've pivoted and gone, right, now I've got a bit of an overview of what's going on in work. What I want to do now is go, right, what's influencing what then? So is there maybe something going on at home? And as soon as she's sort of brought into the conversation something outside of work and said about feeling sleep deprived,
yeah.
then I was like, right, flip it. What's going on outside? So now I'm aware of the baby's not sleeping through and that's been more problematic. I know that there's something going on with the mum now with regards to that. And so now I'm getting a bigger picture. So what I'm doing now is building that bigger picture.
Yeah, and that again is like a really good skill that's not to be over what's the word, under minimized, is this idea of like you said, active listening, identifying something and being curious about it. Because the sleep thing could have easily been dismissed of, well, they're busy with work, they're getting stressed out with work, so it's just a work-based thing. But you
Yeah.
have kind of opened the door to ask a question, and now I guess you've got a lot of other information around that gives you, like you said, that kind of broader picture around what's going on for them in this moment. So now you know that. Where are you thinking of going next?
So with this then, excuse me, I'm going to look at this and go, okay, if there's perhaps something going on at home as well, with this work-life balance, once that starts to kick out of kilter and one or the other starts to bleed into the other, then both are going to take a hit on it. So I'm going to ask her sort of where the priorities are. If there was solutions at home, would that make it feel she has more resilience and ability to do what's going on in work with regards to the pressure points there? Or is it work and those pressure points there and now really starting to have a detrimental effect on being able to switch off when she goes home? So that's where I'm going from now. Trying to figure out where we need to, as a manager, and this might be a surprise to managers actually, is that you might be supporting somebody outside of work, not necessarily speaking to them outside of working hours, but supporting somebody outside of work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is that your kind of duty of care, I guess, as a manager might
Yeah.
extend beyond the completing the reports and prioritizing the work. It might also be taking into account things that they have going on outside of work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, gone are the days where you used to be able to, well, no, it's not used to be able to, where managers used to say to members of staff, you leave your personal lives at the door
Yeah.
and pick up on the way back out. That simply just doesn't happen in the modern world nowadays. So yeah, it certainly has to be taken into account because if that's not addressed at home, then nothing's going to change in work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. All right, let's carry on. So you've just learned that new information.
Yeah.
Avatar will come back, say let's continue, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like it's all very challenging at the moment, and some of the pressures that you're experiencing at home, maybe then adding extra pressures in work, and vice versa. What you're experiencing in work is maybe adding some pressure at home as well, and this work-life balance kind of has got blurred. Where would you feel you could really do with the support most when it comes to it? So you mentioned about the baby's not sleeping through, the new baby's not sleeping, and that's having an impact. You've got this thing going on with your mum, etc. Is there flexibility that might be needed now? I'm not trying to get into a fix mode here. What I'm trying to do is possibly put options and suggestions to you. So where do you need the help most at the minute? Would it be at home or would it be in work?
I mean, that's hard to answer because it's honestly both.
Okay.
I can't just switch one off to fix the other, can I? If you're asking where the pressure's worse, it depends on the day. Some people here get more leeway with things, like flex time or remote days, so maybe that'd take the edge off, but I'm not sure.
Okay, absolutely appreciate that both. You are quite right. The part of being a human being is that you never know where the pressure is going to come from day to day. Okay, you mentioned there about flexi time and perhaps working from home. If we perhaps sort of, again, I'm not necessarily wanting to fix, but I'm looking for options that might help you. Would flexi time help so that you could sort of work in and around what's needed at home? And if you've got appointments for your mom, and perhaps if the baby didn't sleep so well last night, then there's no pressure to necessarily get into the office, or you know where I'm coming from. What would you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Look, I'd probably take it if it's on the table, but I don't want it to look like I'm slacking or not pulling my weight. That's the bit that worries me, if I'm honest.
Okay, I fully appreciate that and understand that that might be perceived that in some way you're not performing and doing what you're meant to be doing. But I think if we free up sort of set hours and make them more flexible for you, why would you necessarily not sort of be able to do what we need you to do when it comes to the work-wise elements of it? So whilst it's a worry, and I appreciate that it is a worry that that's what folks might think, personally, I think maybe that's something that might not happen, but if it did, then we could tackle that as and when it did.
Yeah, maybe you're right. People notice though. It's not nothing, is it? But if you're backing it, I'd try it, see how it goes. What's the process for sorting that?
Interesting. So there was an interesting dynamic there, which is part of the scenario we've set up here, which is, I think, quite common in like burnout scenarios where this character we're practicing with here is a high performer, achiever, wants to deliver, wants to do more. They're acknowledging also that they've got multiple things going on at the moment. You've got to a point where there might be a solution that they want to take, but then there's that feeling of, if I take this, am I don't know, like giving in, or am I not performing in some way? Curious if you kind of picked up on that, and have you seen that in other conversations around like burnout and stuff, where there's almost a sense of, I don't want to take the help because I want to show that I can handle it, but often it gets to a point where that can't continue.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about here with regards to it. It's the masking element, isn't it? When it comes to folks in the workplace, where for some reason, it is changing. The landscape's changing when we talk about burnout and the possibility of burning out. It's happening far more regularly than people perhaps even acknowledge is happening. But I think if you have a manager that is empathic, who understands this whole concept of mental well-being and has had the right training skills to be able to do this, then we'll understand that at times life and work is going to kick the backside out of maybe one of their team members. And so with it, then it's giving that, for me now, the next bit would be to assure Emma and say, listen, whilst I absolutely appreciate that there might be some hesitancy and there might be some anxiousness and concerns about reaching out and getting, this help and this support, that's enabling Emma to still be. Does that make sense? She's still being able to do a job. Whereas if we don't maybe put this in place now, and I'll explain this in a way to that's for her benefit. If we put this in place now, that will mean that it will. There might be further challenges we can avoid further along the way, or some more intense challenges that we can attack. I'm waffling a little bit, but that's why.
There's an interesting when I read through her last statement where she said, "Yeah, maybe you're right. People notice though. It's not nothing, is it? But if you're backing it, I'd try it, see how it goes, and then what's the process for sorting that?" There's like an interesting almost. Trap is probably the wrong thing where for me, as a manager, I'm like relieved where suddenly I can ignore all of this human stuff and now go to like a very procedural of, well, there's a form you need to fill out. Let me email it you now, fill it in and let me know when you've done it. Do you know what I mean? There's a trap of like tidiness there where you can suddenly tick a box and close it off. But in that statement, there's also that kind of, the real thing in some ways is that people notice it's not nothing, where there's almost a risk that if you don't address that, they may not actually do the thing you want them to do. And it's one of those things we said at the start, that kind of like temptation to fix is that she's just offered it on a plate to you now. Yeah. And it might be really easy just to say, well, let's go do that.
Well, yeah, because on here, I mean, there's that there where she's going, yeah, maybe you're right. But there's still a hesitation there that people might notice. So there's a concern there that still needs to be spoken about. So that will come up next. I talk about that, so that's been recognised and heard. And then she says, if you're backing it now, what we've got there for me is as kind of the manager is making the decision there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
You see where I'm coming from? She's not making that decision. So for me, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, listen, I'm supporting you with this, but I'd like you to make the decision as to, is that the thing that's going to work for you at this moment in time? And we can try it and see. That's what I always say. There's a try and see sort of a scenario here. So there's no long-term commitment. There's a review that's going to kick in here. That's my intention, to go that way. But I'm not just going to leave that as like you say, some managers might go, perfect, done, dusted, tick that box. I'll catch up with them in 2 weeks. I'm off. And doing that bit, but there's not that, because you've still got the pastoral care, and you've still got a responsibility for encouraging the work-life balance. So for me, I've been returning back to that and going, right, so whilst we've got that solution there, we've got this temporary solution there for you to work towards, but what about you looking after yourself? What's happening there? I want that. I want to go, right, how can we ensure? Because if you're working on flexi, then that might start to interfere with the usual work-life balance split. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It might also introduce some other challenges that have not been considered. Yeah.
So then that starts all to get blurred. So if somebody's working flexi and they're going, oh my God, well, because I took my mum to the appointment to the hospital at lunchtime and I'm 3 hours down today, say, for example, and they think at 10 o'clock at night they need to make them 3 hours up.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I'm like, right, okay, hang on a minute. No. That might work against you. So there's that consideration as well. So all this needs to be thought.
This is the point in the conversation that I find so fascinating, is that this like simple point in what appears simple point in a conversation has got so much depth and complexity and challenge, which I guess is exactly why I'm biased, but exactly why the practice helps in that. If you get to this point, being aware that through practice you can identify and understand, because obviously in like a real conversation you don't have the benefit of the pause button. You've got to make fast decisions in the moment, I guess. And being aware, like I said, if I were in this situation, I'd definitely go down this route of, well, complete this form, fill it in and we're done, and maybe miss out on a whole bunch of other stuff that might be worth exploring.
Because that won't fix the situation unless other things
love it.
Placed. So that won't do anything. That will just make them think it's their responsibility now. Hey, look, the manager gave you flexi time. It's up to you now to make it work. No, that doesn't work like that. So Okay, I absolutely appreciate that you've got that anxiousness and concerns about thinking that it isn't nothing. People on occasion, Emma, do need that extra support, and that's the human element of us when it comes to being human beings. At times, that we need to lean and we need to support on people. So, from my perspective, as your manager, you will absolutely get no judgment from me when it comes to you needing that extra support of what's going on in your life at the moment.
All right, I hear you. And that's good to know. Still feels like people talk, but look, if you're saying it's okay, I'll try not to overthink it. Let's just see how it plays out.
Fantastic. That's a great positive step, excuse me, of moving forwards and thinking, right, how do we sort of get through this moment in time with what's going on? What I'd like to do as well, if I may, Emma, is that we've spoken about this as a solution or a temporary solution or a try solution, should I say even. So we'll get that ball rolling. But also what I want to do is also, if I may, is just backtrack a little bit and think about how you might sort of switch off from work and delve into and really dip into life and do some self-care, essentially, is what I'm thinking, is that how we think about you getting some time to do that, because I know you've got things are full on at the moment. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I'm not great at switching off right now. There's always something, either work pinging or someone needing me at home. I know I should, but it's not really happening, if I'm honest.
Okay, listen, I absolutely appreciate and understand how difficult and busy life can be at times and how it feels like you personally have to take a back seat when it comes to self-care and looking after yourself. But if I may, maybe sort of suggesting that if you sort of try to do, even if it's just small amounts, but try some things on a day-by-day basis where you're just dipping into doing a little bit of self-care. For example, maybe making sure that at lunchtime, for example, you take your lunch away from your desk, maybe go out and get some fresh air or a change of scenery or something as sort of small as that, but might have a big benefit for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I get the logic, and I know it's meant to help. Just feels a bit, I don't know, indulgent. Like, I'm not sure I'd actually switch off, even if I left my desk. I'll try, but I can't promise it'll stick right now.
Do you want to end the session, please? Gonna get some confetti. Yeah, confetti.
Yes.
Look at that.
There we go.
Good job, Peter. 81 out of 100. What are you thinking, like, coming straight out of that practice before we look at the feedback? What's your like reflection after doing that activity? What are you thinking, feeling? How do you think it went?
Again, okay, so for me personally, the fixer screams into life after conversations like that. And so whilst I'm sort of like pushing not so much ownership or responsibility, there is an element of that, but whilst I'm pushing that back to Emma, I'm wanting to hold a hand and help her do that. Does that make sense? So I've got to be mindful that I don't overoffer. That's one thing. And then again, for me, when I walked away from that conversation, again, it's the fixer element in me. I felt like there wasn't enough of a plan in place for her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But that's me, if it will do.
I guess it's that maybe plan, like we had the part which was, I guess, the sort of work orientated around the sort of flexi working, but as we said in the conversation, maybe didn't get like to a more systemic plan in a way. It was maybe a bit of a quick fix that hadn't solved the rest of it, maybe.
Yeah, it is. It's that. And I'm like, so, right, okay, then, well, what support has she got at home? I suppose in more of a conversation, I would have delved more into home because I know what support she's got in work. For me, in hindsight, I'd have been going, do you know what? I should have delved into more of what support looks like at home.
Yeah. If we'd had longer, how would you have liked the conversation to end? So obviously we had a short practice there. Is there an ideal ending that you would have wanted to get to? But again, it's just the last thing I'd say on that is also like quite sometimes these are 15-minute conversations at work. Do you know what I mean? We spent about 10 minutes. But just curious, if you'd had another 5-10 minutes, is there something that would have liked the conversation to end?
Yeah. So what I would have done with that is so that they feel confident, it would have been, right, okay, then let's think about, and it depends if I, as a manager, I had the autonomy to approve the flexi. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if that needs to go up to HR or my line manager, etc., so that would play a part in it. But however, I want them to walk away from there secure in knowing that that flexi element that's been offered is in process. It's going to happen, or it happens. And then I also would leave that conversation with a confirmed sort of quick catch up to see how things are going. So whether that's in the next day or two, I go, right, just touch base. How's it going with the flexi time? Does anything need to tweak? And I'd keep regular contact. It doesn't have to be chapter and verse every time, but it would be regular. And I'd make sure that and setting boundaries as well. I think that's important. I would have left that conversation with a set of boundaries. And when I'm talking about boundaries, when am I going to be available? When I'm not going to be available? If I'm not available, what happens? Does that make sense?
Yeah, amazing.
So
cool.
so I put those boundaries in. So that's how I'd wrap that up. So I'd delve a little bit more into personal, find out what support there, put that process in place for the flexi, agree when we're going to do those touch points, and put those boundaries in place as well. So we're both clear about, what my role is in Emma's situation.
Amazing. And let's just have a look, just scroll down for us. So in terms of things that did well, so one of the top things you did was removing the fear of judgment.
Yeah.
And actually, it's weird, this feedback, man. I worry sometimes that my brain has been implanted into this because it's exactly what we do. It must have been listening to us in some way. So it's exactly what we talked about, right? That kind of point where Emma was nervous about taking the option of flexi work and you made it safe for her. So you did that really well.
Yeah.
And then we've got this kind of avoid broad minimizing.
Yeah. Mentioned that the other departments were under the cosh, weren't she?
Yeah.
And with that then, so maybe, I don't care about other departments. I'm focusing on you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You've kind of introduced something that maybe feels that she's one of a big machine in a big machine, one cog in a big machine sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it absolutely is.
And then if you just click see in transcript.
Yeah.
And then let's see, scroll down and there should be a moment of the session somewhere. Keep going. You got a strong moment. Try next time. More there. Moment of the session. What's this one? Just click onto that. Active listening and non-judgmental reassurance.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's that point of saying, the moment of the session was where you kind of said you'll get no judgment and reduce their concerns, particularly around taking that flexi option. So
yeah, brilliant.
Did really well. Really good, man.